At this time, I'll call the Budget Committee meeting to order and ask Angeli to call the roll. Please, Angelo.
Cole. Here. Hannum. Here. Lewis. Here. Mitchell.
Here.
Moon. Here. We have a quorum.
I'll now ask for the emergency announcement to be played.
Before we get started, let me read the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you have reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
I'll now ask if there's any public input on items on the agenda. Seeing none, y'all have a copy of the minutes in your packet, and they need approval. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Move to approve.
Do I have a second? Any discussion of the minutes? I'll ask for a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Declare the motion passed. Item E, increase and decreases in transfers. We have the financial portion of the agenda. General Administration Project Fund 101-09-1110 reallocates Chronos monies that were left over on 6/30/15. John, will you explain that to us?
Yeah, simply I messed up. Real simple. There were money that was not encumbered that was designated for the Chronos project. At the end of the year, it gets put back into the fund balance. I'm just asking for that money to go back so we can finish the project. It's essentially a contingency money. We've had to buy 4 more clocks than we anticipated. There's a couple of interfaces that we need that were not part of the original contract. And so we need this money to really finish the project.
Okay, any questions?
John, do you anticipate that there, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, you recognize.
Do you anticipate that there will be any other, will this money cover what you need then?
I think so. I mean, until we get closer to the end, we are close to the end. We're probably 2 months away from the end. But there's some of these interfaces, until I get the pricing back from them on those interfaces, I really don't know how much they're going to charge us for them.
Okay.
We have a couple of interfaces that are now going to have to be done by Chronos.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a motion to?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'll move that we go ahead and send this forward to the Agenda Committee.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
If I understand this correctly, this amount was in the last fiscal year's appropriation. When we closed the books, June 30th, it went to fund balance. Now we're just asking to reappropriate. So it was in the estimates for the project originally.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If I might, by law, all appropriations lapse at June 30, and this is one of those appropriations that lapsed. If you look on page 5 of your packet, the original appropriation approved by County Commission was $1,361,506, and you can see that we've had basically 4 encumbrances against that budget that total $1,251,653.77, and the balance, that $109,852.23, is what we're asking that you reappropriate to be spent, if necessary, during this fiscal year.
Is there any other questions or discussion? Mike? Okay. All right. Seeing no other questions or discussion, I'll ask for roll call vote, please.
Cole. Yes. Hannum.
Yes.
Lewis. Yes. Mitchell.
Yes.
Moon.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Discussion of possible action on PFM bond restructuring and refinancing analysis. Randy, you want to?
Yes, I'm bringing this to you now so that we will have plenty of time for County Commission to make whatever recommendation it wants to make on how we might want to proceed with addressing the $79.8 million Series 2013B bonds. We will have to make a decision on that financing and be closed by December of 2016. And my calendar tends to run a little fast these days. So before County Commission deliberates on what its options are, I thought County Commission ought to know what all of its options might be. This engagement letter is to do some further analysis on our debt portfolio on what options County Commission can consider at a subsequent workshop that we will have. And it's going to cost us about $9,000 for PFM to do this work. It will not be done by their Memphis office. It will be done by their quant group. So they're quantifiers, people that deal in numbers, not in theory. And what I would like for them to do is have the authority, and Lauren is on the phone here for you all to ask her any questions, and she can further elaborate on this. But what I would like for them to do is have the flexibility to change maturity dates by a year or 2 years if it is a favorable financial alternative for the county. The last time PFM Memphis actually did this work for us, I tied their hands and didn't allow them to change maturity dates. But now you're going to be doing an analysis that may actually favor us if, depending on what the markets do, it may be in our favor if they change maturities a year or 2 years. But the important thing for this body and the commission to understand is that $79.8 million has got 4 swaps affiliated with it or associated with it. And those swaps, the last of those swaps are paid off in 2030. At the time those swaps are paid off, we still have $45 million of unhedged variable rate debt until 2037. And I think the county commission needs to decide if they want that exposure or not. But if you look at our debt policy, I'm trying to put us in a position for the county commission to be able to make decisions consistent with the debt policy it's adopted. So with those comments, this work's going to cost $9,000. We can pay for it out of our debt service fund, but I want this body to be informed of what's going on and recommend this engagement letter be adopted by the county commission. So with that, John, do you have Lauren on the line? Is Lauren on the line? She is. Lauren, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hold on, Lauren.
Okay.
Randy, when did you say those swaps mature?
2030.
Okay.
Try now, Lauren.
Okay.
We can hear
I'm
you.
Here.
Can you hear us?
Any luck?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
I can. Randy, just know that it's rather faint, so you'll have to forgive me if I ask you to repeat on behalf of any of the committee members.
Not a problem. You might describe a little bit about the scope of what PFM would do under this engagement letter, just so this body is aware of what work will be done.
Sure, not a problem at all. And just to confirm, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So a little bit explanation of kind of what our role will be and the deliverables associated with this engagement. As Randy mentioned, the debt has some unique features to it. The most of which is that it has 4 interest rate swaps associated with one piece of debt. And those swaps all have different variables and components associated with them. They all have different maturity dates, and they have different rate-setting methodologies. So there are some complexities associated with the swaps. And so therefore what we're doing in this engagement, and it's not just for myself, it'd actually be for our quantitative strategies group who will come in and they deal completely in numbers. We'll look at a variation of options for the county for this piece of debt, but also thinking in the context of the overall debt profile of the county, because we don't want to look at this piece of debt in a silo. We want to be respectful of the county's ongoing cash outflow associated with existing debt. So it will be a holistic approach, but I will enlist them to get very granular and very detailed as it relates to these swaps and the considerations of what are the best options related to this piece of debt, working off of objectives that we work through with Randy and his team to determine on the front end. So part of our objective, or part of our process will be to determining the objectives of when looking at this debt and looking at options. The other pieces are extremely quantitative in nature and looking at if you change one piece of debt, the amortization of it, how does it impact the overall portfolio, and keeping in mind that the 4 swaps and the impact any changes will have to the portfolio as well. The final deliverable will be a report back to the commission in a workshop setting in which we talk through kind of what the objectives were, the process and that we went through and looking at all different options and where we landed on kind of the most optimal solutions for you all to consider as a governing body.
Once they give me the deliverables, we will schedule the October workshop with the full commission. They would present the results of this analysis and then any other insight they might want to give you as far as options are concerned. And then it's up to the body, the commission, to make a decision like you did the last time, a direction or an option you want to pursue. And once we know that, then that's the track that we will take to the state comptroller's office and actually get them to endorse the approach we want to take. And then we would come back to the commission much as we did the last time. Any questions or comments?
I have a question. Will it be possible, Randy, for you to give the commission the objectives that you'll be given to this, is it PMF? PFM? Because I think it's important for the body to understand what the objectives are that we're wanting them to look at.
Well, the objectives would be to give you as many options to consider. What I'm suggesting to you, unless you tell me otherwise, I want to give PFM a little more flexibility than what I gave them the last time. The last time I made it very clear, you don't change any maturities. I'm not suggesting they do that this time unless there is a financial benefit to the county by changing them. And that'll be a function of the yield curve, frankly.
Okay, that helps me, because based on maybe the way I understood what she was saying, I just want to make sure there's several options out there that we can look at.
Absolutely, there will be.
Thank you.
And Randy?
Yes.
And just I want to highlight a point that you made earlier that I failed to mention, is that I think that the backbone of this process and thinking through the objectives, and that question was very well stated, is that looking to the existing debt management policy of the county and being respectful of the objectives that were outlined in that policy several years ago.
Our debt policy is what the state holds us responsible for. They have our debt policy. It's a requirement of the state, and they want to make sure that whatever option that the commission were to choose would be consistent with what's outlined in our debt policy.
I do. I guess for Lauren, if this, any scenario that we're given is going to be based on current cash flow or current pennies that are available for debt service, or is it going to go outside of that scope?
Well, we know what commission has approved as funding, but the timing of this basically being mid-year is not going to dramatically limit your options, I don't think, Lauren, unless there's just something unforeseen that happens in the financial markets.
Correct.
I mean, we did the current financing we did mid-year, and it did not have a negative impact on us. We paid for all the costs associated with the financing out of cash in the debt service fund so as not to increase the amount of debt we had outstanding.
Is all of this $80 million amortizing now? Is any
It's
of
all
this
back end loaded.
Hey, Randy?
Yes.
I did write down this just for a frame of reference for this group. In December of 2013, the piece of debt had $79.8 million outstanding. There has been 2 payments that have occurred since then. The new balance is $79,555,000. So to kind of just restate, Randy, your reference to back-end loaded. So there were 2 payments made with a total of $245,000 for principal.
Yeah. Just remember, the last 7 years, 45 million of the 79.8 matures.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Randy, what would be wrong? You're saying 1 or 2 years. What should they not be able to look at an additional 4 or 5 years? The way the yield curve looks at this point, the way the credit markets look.
I mean, I don't want to give them carte blanche, but I think we need to give them some parameters. And I'm just saying a couple of years, but I'm not opposed if you want to look at 4 or 5 years. Does that make that much difference, Lauren?
Yeah, so I think one thing that might be helpful for you all to think about, and I don't want to throw a bunch of numbers at you because I'm on the phone and sometimes it's hard to follow, but right now the way the debt pays off is it's very small principal payments in the next 3 years, very small increments of 120,000 block size. And then there's a period where there's no principal being paid at all between 19 and 2023. And I think that's kind of where we're hoping to be, to really leverage our quantitative strategies group to say, okay, what's the best use of that window of time? Do you move debt up? Or how does it, I mean, there's an abundance of options, just so you know, but how do you utilize that space and time? Where's the best resources, best use of your resources? There's a similar window later that would also make some sense to maybe move principal payments back or forward. And I think that's where Randy's hoping to grant us some flexibility to say, okay, what's the best overall options to be considering, knowing we're trying to comply with this debt management policy.
There is nothing about our debt schedule that is normal.
All right, Lauren, if you could explain when you talk about moving principal payments backward or forward, exactly what that means.
Sure. If you go enter into a a full refinancing, you can choose to re-amortize or choose how you pay your principal back. It does have to be approved first by the state, the comptroller's office, if you do any form of a refunding, and then second by the county commission. The other consideration here, which makes this even more complicated or exciting, depending on if you're a quantitative person, is that there may be an opportunity for only looking at partials, meaning we only look at some of this debt to move around or to restructure or refund in that case where you say, well, right now I have a $5 million principal payment in 2025. Maybe we actually move some of that principal up, or in more recent years where we're not paying any principal off. So the concept of paying more towards principal and less towards interest.
In case you didn't hear, Lauren, that was a lot of head nodding.
Good. I didn't hear it.
But there are 4 swaps, though.
Yes,
tied
there
to
are
this
4
piece of
swaps.
debt. So some of it's going to depend upon which piece of debt is security for that swap. Is that right, Lauren?
Well, under simple, yes, but under normal circumstances, you might think common sense, you would associate a $5 million swap with a $5 million piece of debt. Not in this case.
That is correct. And the one thing that I just want to make sure that you all are aware of is that in all cases, we would make sure you do not have more swaps outstanding than you do underlying variable rate debt. In that case, that's referred to as overhedged. That is an absolute non-starter for us because it doesn't make economic sense. And I don't want to get too technical in that, but that's certainly one of the objectives that we will take a very strong hold on because, first of all, we don't believe the state would approve it, and it doesn't financially make sense for the county.
Lauren, are we looking at the similar penalty structure on this debt that we were on the $20 million restructure?
That's a good question. I haven't looked at it in several days. I can look it up while we're continuing to converse and give you an update here in just a minute.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Sure.
But that would only pertain to one of the options. And that option being, would we want to take them out?
Yeah.
But we may have one of your options may very well likely be, well, let's just go back out with another term bond or a loan agreement like we have now.
Given the size of the penalty on the first one, it may be a viable option.
Maybe. I think it's fair to say that you'll have at least all of the same options you considered before, but I'm asking that they have they be given enough flexibility to change maturities or change the amount of principal that we retire, moving it up or back, if it gives us a favorable financial outcome. And I don't think it hurts to look at that because you're certainly under no obligation to do it.
And Randy, I have the reference that was questioned earlier regarding the value of those 4 swaps. I'm going to give you the aggregate number. Certainly I can give you the detailed breakdown, which might be easier to communicate by email, but the aggregate value as of today for all 4 swaps is $12,368,000. In round numbers, there's some dollars there.
Well, interest rates are rising, so that helps reduce the value of those. No, she's got it. We're ready for a vote.
Discussion or questions? Do I hear a motion to forward this on to the agenda committee? Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask for roll call vote, please.
Cole. Hannum.
Yes.
Lewis. Mitchell.
Yes.
Moon.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Lauren.
You too, thank you.
Item number F2, Smoky Mountain Air Show Memorandum of Understanding. We have been asked to partner with Knox County, Knox City, Airport Authority, Knoxville Metropolitan Airport Authority, and the Air National Guard for a Smoky Mountain Air Show presentation that they will be doing in April, the 15th, the weekend of the 15th. This is actually a 3-day event. The air show will be on the air base. The last one of these that they had brought in an rough estimate between 150 to 250,000 people. Since 9/11, these have become very far and few between. We're very fortunate to have this. The Blue Angels will be the feature show but there's a lot of other shows that come with them. In talking with the Patricia Gray, who is the executive assistant to the Commissioner of Tourism, they estimate that when those people come in to an air show as visitors, they'll spend on average statewide it's $120 a day. In this area it's $133. If they stay one night, they'll spend $353. They stay 2 nights, $890. 3 nights, $931. Being very frugal with our estimates at 100,000 people, which is very low. We estimate there'll be considerably more than that come for this. At $120 a day, which is the state average, that's $12 million economically that we stand to gain in this area, and this being in Blount County. Of course, it'll be over the entire area that we'll see the benefit from it. As part of this partnership, they have asked that we give a $10,000 sponsorship. Knox County's given sponsorships. Knoxville City's given money for sponsorship. And they have asked that Blount County give a $10,000 sponsorship donation to this air show to bring this air show in. Any proceeds or money that is made from this air show will go directly to Honor Air, which Honor Air, if you're familiar with it, takes the veterans from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, to Washington. They tour the War Memorial. I think they also tour the Arlington Cemetery. But it's a great cause and is one of the best things I think we do for our veterans. And but for us to be a partner with them, they are asking that we become a partner with a $10,000 financial backing to help bring this air show in. And I think that we're going to see a huge economic gain from this. I think that it's a great win-win for Blount County, because there will be people coming from all over the country and all over the world to watch this air show. And I'm just asking that we make a recommendation from the Budget Committee to the Agenda Committee to be a proud sponsor with the other entities that are involved here. And we do have a budgeted line item that does allow us to do that, and we do have funding there for this if we choose to send this on to the agenda and the commission approves it.
I'll make a motion to send that on with a recommendation.
Got a motion and a second. Is there y'all have any questions?
What account line item did that come out of?
Randy?
101, which is the general county, 51,900, which is other general administration, and line 316.
It's not coming out of fund balance.
No, it is not.
No, we actually have a line item that's for this. We just never done this before. Mike, do you have a question?
I do, and I noticed City of Knoxville is on here as a sponsor. I just wonder if those dollars coming to the area, obviously Maryville and Alcoa will benefit from that more than the county. Have Maryville and Alcoa also been asked to sponsor and decided not to, or?
No, they have not. They asked for us as for Blount County to be the sponsor in this. You know, Maryville had the Fall Festival. Now they do the barbecue on Broadway, and they never ask us for sponsorships on that. Alcoa does the Freedom Fest every year and spends a lot of money, and as does Maryville, and they've never asked us to be a sponsor on that either. They reached out to Blount County and asked us to be the co-sponsor or the sponsor with Knox County, Knoxville City, the Airport Authority, and the Air National Guard.
Okay, I was just curious. Seems like that. Be more money they could certainly raise for sponsorships. Didn't know if they'd been asked and turned it down, or.
It would be my sense that if we're anywhere in the ballpark on the number of attendees and that economic impact, then I don't have any doubt that there'll be more than enough sales tax dollars generated in the county to more than pay or reimburse us for the $10,000 sponsorship.
Yeah, no doubt it's good for the county. I was just curious about if they had been asked or not asked. Okay.
They have not.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Do I hear any other discussion or question? Hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole? Yes. Hannum?
Yes.
Lewis? Yes. Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item G1A, these are grant applications. There's no matches required, so this is actually for information only. The records management is the archives development, and Jackie is not here, but I think this is for the metal shelving, and B is for some acid-free folder boxes. We are in the process of getting everything ready to move records management and archives to the operations center, and this is part of making that happen. These are grants that do not require any matches from the county.
5 years in the making.
5 years in the making. We also have some money that's, and I don't see it on the agenda. Am I missing it on that from elections, where they were going to use? She's moving some money from one account to the other. Is it on there? Transfer? It's not on there?
Not on here, but it's
Okay. Well, if you want to come up and explain what you're doing, Susan, please.
I have a handout if you all want to see kind of a visual. Yes, no?
Sure, that's visual always helps us.
We'll just take one and pass that on.
Oh, I don't know how that missed being on the agenda.
Administrator for elections here in Blount County, and I have spent a lot of time in Nashville and have talked to a lot of other administrators here in the state, and it's becoming very obvious for many reasons. I think the election process has different options as far as the software that can be used. We currently heavily involve the IT department. We have reports that we have to generate, and sometimes they can take a week to 2 weeks depending on variables, and they do a great job with that. Voter Central is one of those programs that in 5 minutes you can generate that report, and the IT guys can take a deep breath. We are not asking for any increases in this expense line. We're actually not even moving any money into it. There's currently, in other contracted services, there's currently $43,155, which every year we turn back over to the county anywhere from $13,000 to $32,000, I believe, and that's kind of the history there. So it would more than cover the cost of the software and all the first year things that you have to pay for, and that would also include a new server, which we would definitely need. But it'll make our whole process faster, more efficient, and the bottom line is it will probably cut back the likelihood that we would need to tap into our temporary personnel next year with all these elections. I think that would be an outstanding thing. The features in this program, if you work in the, first of all, I've never been through an election, so I can only trust what they're all telling me. So, but the efficiency and the accuracy of it, I know that we are very accurate here in Blount County, and we're not, I won't name any other counties that they just kind of laugh about. However, we have very hard workers in that department, and they would love to have life a little bit easier. The bells and whistles in this program will keep districts and precincts and everything is already built in. Pulling up a walking list for a candidate, it can be done and burnt to a CD or emailed to them in under 5 minutes, and the reports that can be generated. It's a phenomenal program. I've taken the time to play with it, and also our chief deputy has also looked at it, and she's very, very excited. At this point, I have looked into 3 different programs. The local government, which you'll see on this form, on this sheet, this came from Nashville, and 11 of them have just moved over to Voter Central. And I guess the neat thing is if we can't get their IT department, we have 84 counties that we can call and say, hey, we're kind of running a little report here and need some advice. So, but more are going to be moving over, and the ultimate goal is that the state of Tennessee, every election office in the state of Tennessee goes with Voter Central. That's what they're kind of pushing for. There are some counties that are too large as far as the staffing of the actual company that produced this software. So I think in an IT meeting there was concern. I just presumed, and we should never do that, that when he said those counties are too big, I thought, oh, it must be the number of voters, but that's not the case. It's their personal staff to be able to man, as they say in the state of Tennessee, the state of Shelby is one of them. So they will not be moving over, but in Davidson County won't be moving over for a while until the rest of everybody else ends up joining in. Then there'll be pressure. So here I am. What's next?
Can we vote on that with it not on the agenda? Okay.
Election Commission.
I don't know what you need to vote on. I think it's just
For her to move
information.
from
She doesn't need to move any money. She has the money to do, if I
Okay.
understood what she was saying. She has the money to do, she's just sharing that
Okay,
information
this is
with
just
this
for
body.
information only, okay. All righty. Does anybody have any questions?
Susan, how much is the software or the
Okay,
system?
the company that we're looking at, Voter Central, the initial fee for the first year is $9,300. That includes uploading or downloading or whatever, all the information to the state, and the state will work with our IT department and Embry Consulting, who owns this. Then there's a yearly maintenance fee of $3,400 every year. We would make the 85th county. The other 2 software packages that we're looking at, local government, my concern with local government, as with the state of Tennessee election offices, that there are only 4 counties that they support, and they're all over the southeast, and they don't do election software anywhere else. So we wouldn't have a lot of resources to call and say, hey, I'm running into a problem. And then ES&S, who handles the very, very, very complicated Davidson County, the initial fee for the first year is $49,000 with a yearly maintenance fee after that of $33,000. So I would regretfully not even, go back to them for anything. So we kind of went with Voter Central's a little bit more, local government, the first year is $69.37. Each year after that is $2,000, but there are only 4 counties, like I said, in Tennessee using that. And they're using this because they are, actually it's down to 3, isn't it? Local government, yeah, they're down to 3. So, but they will also back up as maintain hardware. These counties that are using local government currently do not have strong IT departments like we do. So IT obviously would be still involved with the hardware side of it all, but we would free up their time to do other things. Did I answer your question? Sorry.
Mark Gold's office, it appears, recommends Voter Central.
Yes.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Tom.
I have a question. So, do you need any hardware?
We'll need a server.
Software?
We'll just need a server.
And you have the money for the server also?
Yes, yes, sir.
Any other questions or discussion? Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome. So I don't need to come back tomorrow night?
Does this, will this need to be for information only for the agenda committee or the?
We actually will show this under input on items not on the agenda.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll see you tomorrow night? No?
No, I think.
Okay. That's okay. Thank you all.
No, not unless you're a glutton for punishment. Finance report, that's for information only. And I'll ask if there's any input on items not on the agenda.